to kind of get a feel for the story, I have to kind of describe myself in high school. Weird. Weird is a good way to describe me. Obviously fat, four-eyed, just, well, horrible. I mean, I look like a chubby menudo. You know what I mean? My hair was like a big pompadour. I had these big, thick glasses. But the thing was, I didn't really get picked on in high school because I was invisible. Like, no one ever paid attention to me. You know what I mean? There were other, like, shorter, fatter kids that were picked on, and I was pretty much, like, left to my own devices, except for one guy. His name was Brian. And Brian was a year older than me, and he was picked on a lot, and he knew that he could pick on me because I was, you know, that was an easy target, you know? And so he would pick on me, and it was hard because I didn't really know what I could do about it, you know? In his defense, I did look so weird because, like, my mom, they were immigrants. Like, I'm Hispanic. I don't want to surprise anybody. And my family are immigrants, so my mom tried to dress me what she thought would look cool. So she would buy these, like, really tight t-shirts because she thought they were slimming. I don't know. I'm looking at you right there. I'm sorry. I don't know why. But they were also like these weird, like, magic eye patterns. You know, like they're all like water. Like it was there. Someone like, if you squinted, you'd be like, oh, I see a fat Guatemalan. I get it. You know? And then I would wear like these long dress pants, no matter what. And my mom wouldn't cuff them. I don't know why, but she wouldn't cuff them, so they were always bunched up. And I would wear these really bright white sneakers that my dad made me polish every day because he said the sneakers, they impress the ladies, mijo, you know? So, like I said, it was easy just to kind of like play into me. But again, I always wore pants too because my mom had this thing that if I was wearing shorts, the devil would find me because that's what bare legs were. Bare legs were like fodder for the devil. You know? We don't have time to go into that. So I would tell the teachers that he was picking on me. He would the thing about Brian was that he would kind of shove me around every once in a while, but he would just insult me. And the thing was, he would just call me fat or fatty fat. Or fatty, McFatty fat. I mean, it was, like, if you're gonna insult me, like, come up with something creative, like, honestly. I know that you're, like, 17 or something, but really, let's work on it, you know? Let's have a session or something. But anyways, I would tell my teachers, and my teachers were just like, okay. I mean, it was, like, the 90s, so bullying was just kind of kids will be kids, you know? And I told my parents, and my parents were like, well, we'll try to be his friend, you know? Well, you know, be his friend. And so I tried to talk to him and, like, try to, initiate a conversation with him. And when I did that, all he did was pants me. In front of everybody. And my bare legs were out there for the devil, you know? But I didn't know what to do. Like, it was getting to a point where I couldn't do anything. He was really good about hiding, it's not a view, I had a bully. He was hiding the bullying from everyone around me. And I would cry like a little kid, you know? I would cry, but nobody was helping me. And so one day I was over at my uncle's house, and my uncle would go to swap meets and buy all these really weird, weapons and velvet panther things and like all these tchotchke stuff. And I was sitting there showing me this haul, and I saw this thing, and I realized that I could get back at him, right? So I asked to borrow it, and he was like, "Why? Like he's like, I'm gonna borrow this thing, but don't tell my parents." And he was like, I guess, he did a lot of marijuana. I didn't know that at the time. Just one day I'm like in high school, when I get older and I go to my first party, or not high school, sorry, college, I'm like, that's my tío. So it's like my tío. Anyway. So he gets into this thing, and I hide in a bag, and my parents don't know what I'm doing, right? And it was the 90s, so it was pre-Columbine, so there's no metal detectors, there's no search, I could just walk in with whatever I wanted. And I realized that the only way that I could actually do this was if I could get someone to hold him for a little bit. That was like the perfect part of the plan. And so I went up to my sister's friend, and all her friends were cholos, and I asked him, I said, hey, I explained to him, I showed him the thing, and he's like, are you sure you want to do this, man? And I'm like, yeah, I said, I gotta do something, like he's being relentless, And so he goes, all right. And so, he's standing out, like, we're in the cul-de-sac, we're the band, so that's where the band kids would get picked up. So he's standing in the cul-de-sac with his back to us, and and the guy, the cholo, comes up behind him and then slips his arms behind him and holds him, and then he whispers into his ear, "You fucked up, man." And then I get in front of him and I'm like, "You got it. You're an asshole. You gotta leave me alone, and I'm gonna get back to you." So I reached into the bag and they pulled this thing out, and what the thing was one of those giant fists on an accordion thing, that they have like in cartoons and stuff. And then I just started wailing into him with it, right? And everyone turned around, and like no one had seen this in person, so people started laughing and they're cheering, and like he starts like screaming, "Leave me alone, leave me alone!" And he starts to cry. And when he starts to cry, the cholo drops him, and I stop. And we all laugh, and I high-five, and that was actually the first time I made a group of people laugh. And it was the first time, and it was the first time I realized that it didn't have to be angry, and it didn't have to be violent. Not that it was, but I could always sort of work my way out of the situation. And I was having all these really great emotions, and the cholo grabs and says, "Let's go." And he goes, "That was great, man. I didn't realize you were so cool." And I looked at him and I said, "Neither did I." That's my story. Thank you.